Good day to you, sir.
And a very good day to you, Mrs. D.
And how do we find you on this fair morning?
Exceedingly preoccupied, madam.
Was ever thus? You've always been preoccupied. You're too preoccupied for your own good, sir.
Nothing comes from nothing, madam.
And we have had nothing from you, sir. Evelina, Georgina, come and greet your father.
Good day, Father. May I present my child to you?
Your granddaughter.
Rosalie Adelaide.
Your only surviving grandchild. Georgina, cease your dithering.
May I suggest, Mrs. D, with the utmost respect, that you withdraw to the drawing room?
That was a clip from Mr. Turner, and I'm delighted to be joined now by writer-director Mike Leigh. Hello.
Oh, yeah, good.
It's been a long journey, hasn't it, since you first had the idea of making a film about Joseph Turner?
It has. I mean, I thought of it in 1999, approximately, after we'd made a Topsy-Turvy, and I'd got a taste for doing 19th century stuff. I knew all about Turner, or not all about him, I knew about his work. I was familiar with it, as we all are, and I've always been a great fan, but I didn't really know much about Turner the man. But when I started to investigate that and do a bit of research, I was struck by the tension between this curmudgeonly, complicated, passionate, sometimes difficult, sometimes really accessible guy who could be very generous and could be very grumpy, and etc. The tension between him and this amazing, spiritual, fantastic, sublime work that he did. And the work is nothing if not cinematic, So I thought, well, this is a film, potentially. And also, I mean, I did think Turner the man, as I started to discover him, was potentially a very good character for a Mike Leigh film.
Also, the tension between the way he paints with spit, we see him paint, and there's one scene where he just puts a red blob on the painting and you're wondering where he's going with it, and he turns it into something beautiful. The tension between that and actually the finished product, which is very graceful and very beautiful.
Yeah, all of those things. I mean, just fascinating, really.
Yeah.
It just seemed, and also all the relationships and the whole world that his whole journey, really, I felt was potentially a film.
So 15 years since that idea came into being, and now we're in the week of release. How do you feel now? Is this exciting? Is it nerve-wracking?
It's great. It's wonderful. I mean, we really spent a long time, years, trying to get interest financially in the thing and not being very successful, not really. I mean, in the end, we made it for less dosh than we would have liked to, but I'm very comfortable with what we've done, because it's amazing what you can do within limitations when those limitations are there, And I'm slightly surprised in the end that we've made the film, but it's great. And of course, I've worked with a huge bunch of extremely talented people on both sides of the camera, and I think we can all be pleased with ourselves. Really.
Let's talk about one of those, if we can, which is Dick Pope, cinematographer. What were your discussions with him when you were planning the film?
We're on the same wavelength. We were passionate about Turner. We were able to, in all that time, albeit that the reason that it didn't happen is because of financial considerations, gave us time to look at the work, to talk about it, to go to the Tate Britain, who are incredibly generous. The Great Turner Archive is in there, to look at Turner's colour charts, to talk about how we could inform the film with a sense of Turner, with Turner's palette, with the spirit of Turner, without it being chocolate boxy in any way. Shoot tests and do all that stuff. And really decide on a kind of cinematic language for the film.
And that sense of Turner, you see right from the first shot, which is a Dutch landscape, isn't it? And eventually we see Turner himself trying to sketch it.
I think he actually is sketching.
He's
succeeding.
Succeeding, yeah. I think he's gone beyond trying.
I think so.
How was it getting those? I mean, that's sunrise, isn't it? That was dawn, I think.
That was dusk, actually.
Dusk, okay. So how was it getting those moments? Because you have one chance.
Well, yeah. I mean, that particular shot, we all assembled at the end of the day and in time to be ready and hit the sunset when it came in. The good news is it didn't cloud over or rain, and there are quite a number of those moments in the film where somebody up there was pulling the right strings for us, I mean, to a considerable extent, it is just by being there and embracing the either the landscape or the seascape or the sky, and being patient and being lucky. But of course, the film was shot on a digital camera, and which is a great tool, frankly, and there are things you can do, which Dick Pope and our colleagues did in post-production to enhance it and make it even better.
And Dick Pope won an award at the Cannes Film Festival.
Absolutely, and I hope he wins some more, frankly.
Absolutely. As did Timothy Spall. Again, someone with whom you've worked for a long time. Was it immediately obvious to you that he would be the person to play Turner?
He's certainly the only actor that I thought of for the part, definitely. He's a great character actor. He's a Londoner. He understands working class guys like Turner. He has read a lot of Dickens. He's good at 19th century. He did a great 19th century character with me in Topsy Turvy. And like a lot of the actors in the film, he can sense that period. It can somehow draw from our collective received understanding, which isn't so long ago, actually, curiously. I incidentally suddenly realised that Turner in 1851 died only 92 years before I was born, which is about the equivalent of 1922, So it's actually quite recent, really. And it hangs in our received collective memory in some way. And I think that actors who are bright and, as all these ones in the film are intelligent, are able to sort of activate that and plug into it in some way. And Tim is very good at that. The other thing about Tim Spall is I knew that he had some healthy amateur pretensions in the direction of drawing and painting. But he did go off to a very good teacher for 2 years and learn how to paint.
And I think it's film number 6 with him.
Is it?
Began in the early 80s. Home Sweet Home was the first
time.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's tempting for fans like myself to think back to that moment in the early 80s when you first met as this sort of momentous occasion, the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Do you remember the first meeting or the first time you worked with him?
I do. I remember the first meeting. I remember he came and auditioned for me at the BBC, in fact. And I remember him just running around being this guy that he knew from Battersea. I'm thinking, yeah, he's good. He could do this. And that's it.
I'd like to talk about Joseph Turner's mannerisms. I mean, people have picked up on the grunting and things like that. Were these recorded by people at the time?
Well, there are lots of descriptions copious descriptions of Turner. And it appears that he did make funny noises in some way. Somebody at some point actually wrote down verbatim how he talked, just for a page or so, which is quite useful. We know that he could be taciturn, that he could be monosyllabic, he could be very eloquent, he could talk with great classical references, he could be passionate, he could be disingenuous, he could be honest. And those things reflected in how and we know that he had a Cockney accent of some kind. So Tim Spall and I just, acted on all that and got down to it and created this characterisation, complete with grunts.
How about his relationship with Constable?
Well, it wasn't a close one. I think we've crystallised that in one moment in the film. And, I mean, that event, which is in the film, where he paints this famous red blob on a painting next to Constable's very red painting, that actually happened. And we know it's true because there are, as in the film, there were loads of people there and they all logged it in their diaries and things. I think what's fascinating from the Constable point of view is that Constable plainly had a serious sense of humour deficiency, which Turner didn't have. And that's one of the reasons why I think Turner is by far and away the greater painter, which I know some people will be not pleased to hear, they say. One of the things you haven't talked about, and I hope you're going to, is the important aspect of the film, which is all the women in it, really.
Yes. Well, let's start with Marion Bailey. Tell me about her character.
Well, here is Turner after his father's death. He's already met this landlady, and he goes down there and he gets it together with her, as he did. And he finally lived with her, and they moved to Chelsea, and it was a secret. And his own housekeeper, with whom he had some kind of relationship, certainly in our film, didn't even know. And that's all true. People didn't know who she was or where he was and things, where he went.
And the housekeeper is Dorothy Atkinson. In the
Dorothy
film.
Atkinson, brilliant.
So in the film, you're saying there was a relationship. I know that not everyone is certain about that.
With who?
With the housekeeper.
No, I mean the sexual relations with the housekeeper, which we've got in the film, that is our invention. But it felt very right, and it felt not at all implausible, and for me it was consistent with the whole portrait of Turner and when he goes to a brothel at one point. Early on in the film, and there's another female character that we've completely invented, played by Karina Fernandez, who's a pianist at Petworth House, the stately home he goes to, where he spontaneously sings from Purcell's Dido and Aeneas, which Turner actually was very fond of, which simply opens up a warm and compassionate side of him early in the film, so that you can get that that's there as it was. But his most solid relationship was with the landlady and Margate, Mrs. Booth, as played by Marion Bailey, certainly.
And then there's Leslie Manville, who I think is your most regular collaborator across stage and
she's
screen.
my most frequent collaborator, certainly.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Tell me about her moment, because she's only in one scene, I think.
Yeah, she is, and she plays a very important character. I mean, Mary Somerville was a great, what was then called a natural philosopher, which is to say a scientist, after whom Somerville College, Oxford, is named. She did all these experiments with light and prisms and colour and magnetism, and Turner was fascinated. So, and we see her, as she did, come to his studio and demonstrate this principles of what she was investigating, which was later proved to be invalid, but that's not important. So again, that's another relationship with a woman, a completely, straight intellectual sharing in a very modern way. And the other woman in the film, whom you don't see, is his mother, who died in Bedlam, the lunatic asylum, and we talk about that on his father's deathbed. The close relationship between Turner and his father, brilliantly played by Paul Jesson, I think you'll agree.
Absolutely.
Is very important. And obviously they were bonded very much by this awful experience with the mother.
Well, it's a fabulous film. It's out on Friday. Mike Leigh, thank you very much.
Thank you.